Okay, good evening. This is a tester I got off of eBay. I thought it was kind of interesting. And we'll take a look at it and see if it is useful for anything at all. These cost about $20. It's marked as a transistor tester. It's got an interface. This is actually like a little clip-on doodad that kind of an add-on that comes with it. Automatic identification for transistors, diodes, dual diodes, MOS, which is metal oxide semiconductor, SCR, resistor, inductors, capacitors, and capacitor ESR testing. Let's see if that works. Well, let's start with the easiest, I suppose, to test. We have a resistor. The color code on this would indicate that it should be 860 ohms. I'll put it into pins 1 and 2. Close the door. We'll shield the screen from glare, and we'll push the test button, which should fire the unit up. Wakes up and shows a copyright infringing symbol. And the screen reads resistor with resistance 865.2 ohms. And it also shows how strong my 9-volt battery is. And so I know whether I need to replace it or not. So it's off to a good start. Next, let's try a non-polarized capacitor. These are sort of a blue drop, tough as nails. Capacitor 101.6 nanofarad. That should be correct based on the code. This says 104K. So, good capacitor. Let's try this capacitor. It's polarized, 16 volt, it says 47 mics, and I'm going to throw it. Put that in there. No, unknown, or damaged. So this component would be suspect unless this device sucks at testing polarized capacitors. Here's a 50 microfarad 500 volt big boy, like we'd find in maybe a tube amp or something like that. Let's try that. And it's showing a capacitor with capacitance of 69.23 microfarad. So that looks okay. And the ERS is 0.58 ohms. So that capacitor appears okay. Let's try a different polarized capacitor. This is another 47 mic, similar to the one that we just tested. See if this one's any good. Because if this one's good and the other one's not, then we know to throw that one in the bin. These are all parts I got at the surplus store over time. So, capacitance value 46.13, ESR 1.5 ohms. So, this capacitor, which is from the same lot and batch as this capacitor that came from the surplus store a long time ago, this one's bad. This one's a little bit leaky. So this must have been old stock at the surplus store. The nice thing about this tester is it's so darn small, I could stick this in my pocket when I'm going to the surplus store and get an idea if the capacitors are even leaky before I'm buying them. I think that's pretty cool. Now, this is supposed to be able to test transistors and diodes. So let's look through the junk bin. I did test an LED earlier, playing around, and it did test it okay as a diode. This is interesting. I think there's a Zener Diode in the bottom here, and we haven't checked that yet. So I'll dig that out in a second. Let's feed it a transistor and see what it comes up with. There's one other thing I particularly like about it, which is great if you have an unknown transistor. It tells you specifically pins 1, 2, 3, which is the emitter, base, and collector. 1, 2, 3 equals emitter, base, collector, and gives you the data. If I were to reverse this, instead of reading EBC, it should read CBE. So let's try to reverse it in there and try it again. And there you go. It changed. It says 1, 2, 3 is CBE. Changes its symbol around. Pretty cool. Now, put my transistor back in our bin. So that transistor's okay. And these little 47 mic capacitors, I don't have to see which one's which, but I found a bad one. And I didn't know it was a bad one. This, I believe, is a Zener Diode. This is all just stuff out of my junk box, so it's not, official stuff. And there we go. Checks it out as a diode. Good. So quite frankly, if we have a component that's just completely and totally shot, when we put it in there, it will detect it as probably something not a diode or something. I'll have to figure out which one of those two caps is bad, and then we'll try to feed it a really big cap. This is a 35 volt 2200 mic. Let's see if I can get that to actually even fit in there. Give that leg a little bit of a bend so we can get it to go in. And it is very possible that we could just put some leads in there, clip the leads in, and then just use the leads. That would probably be easier. Testing. I'd assume it might need to test a little bit longer. And it says capacitor 2102 microfarad, where it should have been 2200, but close enough for jazz. So that works okay. So anyway, we found a bad capacitor in the bin with this, but I thought this is kind of a cool tool just because it's more or less goof-proof. You're working with low voltages, it's not going to blow anything up, and if you have components that are open or shorted or whatnot, you can drop them in here and you can find out if they're bad or not. So hopefully that's helpful. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.